Hello everyone, P-Don's here, and we're back with week 4 of the UGA season, and we've got a pretty hype match this week. Me at 3-0, taking on Mystic and the East Coast Umbreon, who are also 3-0. And if you watched my video last week, I alluded to this matchup. I wasn't too thrilled with it. So let's break down why. All right, so as you can see, you got my team on the left, the same mons as always. On the right, got Water Urshi, Entei, Duraludon, Mandibuzz, Sylveon, got the Rita, Landorus, Decidueye, Reboot, Exploud, and Lantern. Obviously, they're ordered by the order they were drafted in. Except the Klinklang used to be the Gothorita. The same way I swapped out Spiritomb for Gaily, this team also swapped out the Klinklang for Gothorita. Now, my first impression of this team is that I'm going to have a very rough time. Bottom line. I realized this team was on my schedule during week 4, about 24 hours after the grace period ended. And had I realized what I was going up against, there's a chance I might have made a move to try to deal with this. Because it's not that good for me. Some of my observations and concerns with it. My opponent is able to make a real VGC team of 6 that I feel like goes into me very effectively. In particular, Water Urshifu, Entei, Duraludon, Mandibuzz, Sylveon, and Landorus T. It feels like a team that I would face off against in Series 5. Now, obviously, Entei wasn't released in Series 5. I don't think Landorus was released in Series 5 either. But it's more so the type of team that it feels like it would be. Yeah, that all 6 of them are very effective VGC-related mons. Plus, Gothorita can also turn the trapping I've been doing the past 3 weeks against me. So that's something I need to watch out for, and I need to plan around to make sure none of my mons get pinned. Also, Decidueye can Dragapult, Politoed, and Virizion very hard super effectively. Obviously, Spirit Shackle turns into Max Phantasm, so I can't have Dragapult just ignore the Decidueye. If it comes out, I have to hit it. Politoed, it's not going to want to take a Leaf Blade or Max Overgrowth. And because Dartrix and Rowlet are flying types, Decidueye holds on to Brave Bird and can hit Virizion 4 times super effective. So Decidueye is something that I could see ECU bringing this week, even if it's not one of the best mons on the team. Also, I feel like many of my first instant combos are hard shut down by my opponent's various modes. For example, anything plus Togepi gets beat by Duraludon, as Duraludon has the Stalwart ability, which gets around Follow Me and can target whatever mon it wants, whether I use Follow Me or even if Ally Switch from Gothitelle comes out. Adding to it is the fact that one of my biggest hitters, Dragapult, is also weak to Duraludon and probably cannot one-shot it. Oh, okay, so maybe I can use Diggersby instead. Well, I gotta contend to Water Urshifu, and both of Diggersby's stabs, the normal the normal ground typing, it's weak to Urshifu's water and fighting typing, both of them. So Surging Strikes and Close Combat are doing super effective damage. Okay, so that's gonna be a problem, but maybe Tapu Koko can get through this team a bit. Nope, because now I got to worry about Landorus. And Landorus as a whole is a pretty big problem, because if I want speed control against this team, I either have to get in the Trick Room or pretty much max Tapu Koko or Dragapult. I cannot Electro Web Landorus and reduce its speed. Now, if I wanted to beat up Virizion with Dragapult, I still have the same Landorus issue. And also, nothing that Virizion has is a guarantee to KO a Landorus at +3, especially if it maxes. And if it maxes, I'm dealing with max Airstream. And plus, my Steel type is Aggron, which is pretty good into Sylveon. I can maybe hit the Entei before I get burned, but I still have to deal with Urshifu and Landorus with it. In particular, it feels like Urshifu, Landorus, and Sylveon, plus you throw in Duraludon, is incredibly effective against what I have, and I'm going to have to pull a Diggersby out of the hat to win this set. So, here's what I'm going with to give him my best shot. Got a Tamtam the Gothitelle, Dragapult, Politoed, Coughing, Lessie the Diggersby, and Tapu Koko. I also want to give a shout out to Richard Hodge, who really helped me to practice and prep this week in particular. To give him a bit of a shout out, his socials will be down below, and he's nicknamed after the Politoed this week. Alright, so I concluded that Dragapult has to hard carry this week. Dragapult provides the most options to deal with whatever I need to deal with on this team. It is specifically mixed with Draco Meteor and physical attacks in order to deal with the Duraludon better, to hit some lower defensive stats a little bit better. Like, for example, Sylveon, I think, is about 60 defense and something like 110 special defense. And there's no real support from Dragapult this week. It's a naughty nature because the two main special attackers are Sylveon and Dragapult, and I'm weak to those anyway, so I'm gonna die anyway. And yeah, I will probably go this week how Dragapult goes. It's EV to outspeed Entei by 1, which is ECU's fastest Pokemon, and then the rest is in bulk. Now, as for Tapu Koko, I want to try to support this mostly physical Dragapult as best I can with it. So it's going to outspeed the Entei by 2. So it's 1 point faster than Dragapult. I can then get a Screech off and hit things physically with max moves that are -2 defense. It is specifically Air Balloon because I need to worry about Entei. Shockingly, it's not Landorus, although obviously Air Balloon will help a bit there. I could switch into Max Quake. In practice, I was dealing with the Scarf Entei with Bulldoze plus Weakness Policy Duraludon. So I need the Air Balloon to not get hit by the Bulldoze, which means I could still Screech and hit something with Dragapult pretty hard. Now it doesn't even need to be Entei and Duraludon. It could be Entei and Landorus, and all of a sudden my Koko's too slow and my opponent has a free KO. It is Naughty Nature for similar reasons as to Dragapult. This week I wanted Ironhead to be able to hit Sylveon a little harder. I maintain Wild Charge because obviously Stab it hurts Urshifu and Mandibuzz, and at some point the Air Balloon will probably get popped, and Tapu Koko will be able to float down and take advantage of the terrain. Gleam helps me to clean up a few KOs, like late, helps me attack the Duraludon from its weaker defense, and might help me with like some sash breaking, like maybe like Urshifu or something. In regards to Politoed, it's mainly here to assist the Max Geyser calc on Dragapult. If for whatever reason Entei maxes and gets up Max Flare, if it's a Scarf Entei with Eruption for whatever reason, or you know even Scarf Entei with Sacred Fire, the rain will help a bit there. However, it's mainly here to support the Dragapult as best it can, and late game it will potentially give me another way to win the game by setting up a Perish Song. I also have that Shadow Tag Perish Song combo with the Gothitelle and the Politoed, which is always effective. I figure most of the threats are going to be physical to Politoed. Like the Duraludon hitting it with Thunderbolt or a Draco Meteor will hurt a bit. Never wants to take a Hyper Voice, but I also figure I need ways to deal with the physical threats a bit more. Like being able to burn Landorus is probably going to be nice if I get it with a Scald if I'm in that position. So yeah, I pretty much maxed out the defense this week, and we'll see how that goes. Now for the Gothitelle, still traps obviously, but one thing I learned from playing a High Roll Draft League in Season 2, which was just before UGA, was that if my matchup sucks, Hypnosis your way to victory. Essentially, I used Hypnosis on Gothitelle in High Roll Draft League, and also Milotic actually, to steal my week 1. It also was pretty effective. I think weeks 2 and 3 I got a bit of Hypnosis off. Then I started to go away from that a little bit because my matchup started to look a little bit better. But in this case, I pretty much have no choice. I'm probably going to have to land the blind Hypnosis at some point. And obviously the trapping is great, Helping Hand is great, Trick Room speed control. You notice the Tanga Berry on Gothitelle. Now, in practice, I found that Landorus U-turning the Gothitelle plus Duraludon following up with like a Max Wormwind does one shot, or technically 2 shot, but it gets the Gothitelle off the field, which is a problem for me. I think there's definitely worth in using in using the Dark Berry this week, Cobalt, but I believe the super effective attack that is going to hit Gothitelle is probably going to be Landorus's U-turn. And with this berry in combination with the spread, Gothitelle basically always takes the U-turn Max Wormwind double up and gets off Trick Room or Hypnosis or whatever I need it to do. So it is a very defensive Gothitelle, and I feel like this berry is going to proc at least once. Diggersby, it's pretty much the same as last week, although it's EV'd so that it outspeeds Entei at -1, or if I get a max Airstream boost from the Dragapult at +1. ba- basically Diggersby is what you see is what you get. But once again, it's so strong with huge power that if Dragapult is not the win con this week, it's probably going to default to Diggersby. I have the White Herb to deal with Landorus. I can do the same thing I did last week. Lead Diggersby and Gothitelle, lock something in, and try to take a KO that way. Yeah, Diggersby's a monster. Hopefully I can put it to use. And making its season debut is Coughing. When I drafted Coughing, I had mentioned it's basically a trump card. If I need something to not have an ability, if if I need like a true wild card, I can bring Coughing and shut down abilities, and we can go from there. And this week, Coughing has that role. If I swap Coughing in on Sylveon, Pixelate will shut off. That way, all these Hyper Voices, potential Max Starfalls should become Max Strikes and normal type attacks, which means it goes from super effective to not hitting Dragapult at all. The Coughing is EV'd in such a way that if I give it an Airstream boost, it's going to outspeed Sylveon. And the double up from Max Airstream plus Sludge Bomb is something like 90-something% to KO the Sylveon, assuming it doesn't max, of course. Also, I have Destiny Bond on it to because it's a faster Coughing. If I get in a position once it's mostly done its job, I should be able to get a Destiny Bond off. And as long as it's not the not ECU's Maxmon KO in the Coughing, I should be able to take one of the Mons with Coughing. Now, as for Attract, Landorus is a big problem. Landorus is also always male. Urshifu is a big problem. Urshifu is typically male. So, if I get a chance to attract them, I can basically paralyze them until Coughing is removed from play. It's cheeky, but there's something to be said for trying it. And I went with Attract instead of Will-O-Wisp because I want the opportunity to still try to Hypnosis these Mons if I need to. If I burn them, the burn is great, but they can't go to sleep anymore. It's very possible I will end up in a position where I prefer Will-O-Wisp or maybe even something like Memento or something like that. But for now, we're gonna rock Attract. It definitely reminds me of the 2 weeks I convinced Steph of Anime to run Attract in WBE. Those are funny weeks. But yeah, this is the team. I do believe that I can win this, but it is also very clear that I'm an underdog. So I'm going to give it my best shot, and we're going to see how it does. The set is going to be post-commentated. I value the live matches, obviously, as I've been mentioning, but I definitely need to focus on playing this set. And if I'm trying to offer commentary as I'm playing this set, I'm gonna get distracted, and it's gonna be even harder for me to try to steal this one. So the battle will of course be available on my Twitch, and the direct link will be in the description below. Now let's go try and beat ECU and go to 4-0. Alright, so we're getting into it. And Mystic has brought essentially everything that I would expect for them to bring. The only difference is there was no Mandibuzz, and Gatorita is here, but that's an absolutely realistic switch that my opponent could do. Mandibuzz was probably number 6 in my projections, and my opponent wanting to trap me is always a good idea, because trapping is just extremely strong. Now, what I also notice is that the Mons that I want to be male are all male. Landorus, Urshifu, and even Duraludon. It's a shame Sylveon is female, but we just have to deal with that. It's a possibility for Coffin to maybe attract something if need be. But my game plan is basically Dragapult has to carry this entire matchup. So I'm definitely leading Dragapult, and I do want the Politoed to set the rain up, and I'm gonna have Coughing to protect Dragapult from Sylveon, and we're gonna go Coco in the back just for additional coverage and offense. Gatorita and Landorus is an interesting lead for my opponent. I kind of like this. Then I shockingly get the Frisk reveal. So I'm kind of wondering what's up here. I don't think the Life Orb gave away too much information. It basically confirmed what Mystic was going to have to deal with in about a turn anyway. And Citrus Berry is somewhat of a common item on Politoed anyway. But right now, I'm basically thinking, what is this Gatorita going to do? And do I need to take it out now? I'm also assuming that since I have Dragapult, there's a chance that it's sashed. But I decide to just go straight for the Landorus. Like, I want to apply the offensive pressure immediately. I do not have the Mons in this matchup to get into a long, drawn-out contest. So I'm just going to apply the pressure as soon as I can. We get some big information here that the Landorus is not an Assault Vest variant or Choice variant. With the carrying the Protect, it's going to get a little annoying to deal with. Fortunately, I do get an attack drop with the Max Wormwind. I was basically covering doing damage to the Landorus, and if Duraludon switched in, maybe I could KO it on the switch. But that Thunder Wave from the Gatorita is going to cause me a lot of problems. I need Dragapult's speed in this matchup. The thing is, my opponent, I do not think has the board positioning to take advantage of this paralysis right now. However, I have about 2 turns to get rid of this Landorus, I think. Because if I don't, it's going to cause me a lot of problems. I have Tapu Koko and Coughing in the back. And I think my opponent might have even seen that, because the Landorus is smartly withdrawn. It's very possible my opponent was just looking to absorb the max Wormwind into the Fairy. And Sylveon is going to take a chunk for its trouble. But at the same time, I've gotten 2 max turns and I've not taken any KO as of yet. And at this point, I know I have a very significant problem. My max ends next turn, and with a paralyzed Dragapult, I do not think I have the ability to deal with a Dynamax Landorus. I can't even bring in Gothitelle to trap these 2 Mons in to try to position myself a little bit better and to stop the Landers from switching in to Dynamax and ruin my day. So the best thing I can do is I go for the max Airstream, and I want to switch to Coughing. Unfortunately, there is no 0 in this game. And what do I mean by that? In Gen 6 and 7, during your time for the turn, the game won't process the timeout until after the 0 has popped up and vanished. Here, though, once the 0 goes off, the turn is over. So even though I hit swap Pokemon, 0 popped up and it didn't register, so Coughing did not come in. I have Politoed on the field still, and Dragapult took a helping hand with a very quick attack. All things considered, not the worst thing in the world. Still have Politoed here for a bit of pressure. But the problem is, this Landorus is about the Dynamax. I am essentially -1 speed at the moment. And I don't know if it's a bulky Landorus, if it's an Adamant max speed, if it's Jolly max speed, or anything regarding that kind of spread. So I don't know if Dragapult is faster, and I kind of need it to be faster to have any shot of winning this game. Yep, and here comes the Landorus Max. This was very difficult to deal with in practice. Mainly because most of my speed control options can't really hit Landorus that well to reduce its speed. And then it deals a lot of damage mostly on my offensive mons. Unfortunately, it appears the Landorus has some speed, but fortunately it did go for Politoed. Assuming I don't get paralyzed, it does allow me to get this dive off. And I will be protected the next turn as well, because it's a 2-turn move. So I've effectively killed 2 turns of Landorus' Dynamax. Alright, this turn, there's no excuse for this. Coughing has to switch in. This was a massive error on my part. The Coughing will live any attack, and the pixelated Hyper Voice will just be a Hyper Voice that is normal, and I'll still have Dragapult at the end of this turn, even if Coughing dies. But because I swap in Coco instead, I am about to lose both of my offensive mons. You get the confirmation that it's Life Orb, but we had that last turn. And Hyper Voice just finishes off both Dragapult and Tapu Koko. By not swapping and Coughing there, and going a little quick, trying to maybe catch a a max Quake with the air balloon, I just lose this game. I am, however, going to try to bring it back. Figure, worst case, maybe I can keep the differential a little bit lower. There's the Sylveon, the Landorus. I don't know the fourth Mon. Maybe it's Entei. Maybe I can get around these two and do something. Yeah. At this point, I'm also trying to not reveal as much as I can. It's very unlikely that I'm going to win game one, but I do need to minimize the differential as best I can. Try to find out other things my opponent might have, and who knows? Maybe I find a way to bring this back somehow. Alright, so the Citrus Berry my opponent already knew. It's a real shame though I scalded into the Sylveon. I think it's in part because I didn't think I would survive a Landorus attack and was kind of just a little frustrated. But if I did scald into the Landorus, I take it out. And then Sand potentially chips the Sylveon the next turn. And, you know, I still don't know the last Pokemon, so maybe I could do something with it. We do see the Protect, though, just trying to protect, my opponent's trying to protect the Mon advantage. Even that normal Hyper Voice does a lot of damage. Granted, though, it's a Coughing. Coughing is not the best special defensive wall, I'll tell you that much. And we do see the last one is Urshifu. So my win con is basically, and this is going back a few turns because Urshifu is pretty devastating for me at the moment. My win con is pretty much hoping my opponent misplays, but I do go for that. One thing I do want to point out, though, is we saw Protect, Rock Slide, and Max Airstream from Landorus. The fourth move is probably Earthquake, meaning that Landorus is probably not carrying Superpower, which means Diggersby is more safe against Landorus than I might have thought going into this match. So if you notice, I just go for the Attract there. If I have any chance of coming back whatsoever, I need to get it off. But nah, Urshifu's just going to knock out Coughing for game one. Alright, so going into team preview for game two, I'm thinking this is as hard as I thought it would be. Basically, the Mons I expected were the Mons I was having trouble with in game one. What also didn't help things is that I don't think I played as well as I could have. Part of and a lot of it I think has to do with the pressure ECU's team has been applying on me this entire week. But in light of the Landorus probably not having superpower, I decide to try to switch it up and go for the Diggersby Gothitelle trap that I did last week as my Game 2 adjustment. This also works if Duraludon comes in as an adjustment. If Entei comes in as an adjustment, we do have to worry about the burns, but I do get super effective damage. And I figure I could trap Landorus and maybe max Hailstorm it. As for my back, because I'm focusing on Diggersby this game, I don't need as much protection with Dragapult because it's not my primarily offensive weapon. But it's gonna maybe try to clean up things endgame. So, with that said, my 4 for Game 2 are Gothitelle, Diggersby, Politoed, and Dragapult. Diggersby is going to carry most of the weight, and maybe I get Politoed in a position to do late game Perish Song, or Dragapult can maybe get into a position where it can finish off these Mons without maxing. And my opponent makes a very good decision. Sylveon Urshifu is extremely hard for me to break with what I have. Bottom line. I don't know the speed investment on each of these Mons as well. Because my opponent has got the Rita, could be a slow Urshifu, could be a slow Sylveon. Diggersby might actually outspeed them in Trick Room. Or they might outspeed Diggersby in Trick Room, sorry. So, I'm thinking of all the things I could possibly do to get out of this situation. But what I conclude is Urshifu is probably faster than Diggersby. And it's 50-50 between Sylveon and Diggersby. So I decide to go for the max guard immediately so I can get Trick Room up. And then we just take it from there. Because my opponent has regular Urshifu and not G-Max Urshifu, there's no chance of G-Max Rapid Flow, so I'm able to take the attack from the Urshifu and not have any damage this turn. Gothitelle takes that reasonably well, and we go for it. So, this isn't awful. I basically have my pick at what to harm. And if I remember correctly, I want the Urshifu to go to sleep, and I want to take care of the Sylveon immediately. Because I'm not sure what Urshifu's item is. It could be Focus Sashed. And I need to take a KO, or at least put myself in a position to do something like that very soon. And getting a Max Quake into Sylveon, even if it doesn't one-shot it, will at least give me the ability to take Hyper Voices better. And yeah, with the Urshifu maxing, Any chance I have of winning this game comes down to Gothitelle hitting Hypnosis. We do see Sylveon protect, so it's not a Specs variant. And I do get the Hypnosis, which is extremely huge. That Hypnosis gives me a lifeline into game 2. I get the +1 in special defense to help me with the Hyper Voices going forward. And my opponent is trapped in right now with a Sylveon doing reasonable damage and an Urshifu losing its max stones. So, because Trick Room is up and Hyper Voice is still a thing, I want to get as much damage on the Urshifu as possible before it wakes up. Maybe even knock it out. So, going for the Helping Hand Max Quake is pretty important here. As you can see, it does about 70%. But I need this thing to not get a 1-turn wake. If it gets a 1-turn wake, I'm probably done. Fortunately, it still stays asleep. And I essentially have stalled out my opponent's Dynamax with a blind Hypnosis. I think I can take one more with Gothitelle, so I do go for the Hypnosis. And I go for the high horsepower and Urshifu because I'm pretty sure at that range it will KO. Sylveon actually shows that it's that it's slower than Gothitelle, which is kind of interesting. I'm more of a neutral speed one, so that's pretty slow Sylveon, I think. 80 speed or less. But fortunately, I am able to get rid of the Urshifu, and things are looking up. However, it's not done yet. This would have been a lot easier had I hit the Hypnosis into the Sylveon, but I hit a Hypnosis into a Dynamax and Urshifu to keep me in the game, so I don't think I could complain too much. Based on how my opponent has played, I'm considering which Mon is going to protect, because one of them definitely is, potentially both of them. I conclude that the Landorus is probably protecting. And at this point, I'm not sure of my opponent's investment into the Sylveon, but what I do know is I have to KO this thing. If I don't KO Sylveon, I'm going to have a massive problem. So, last turn of Trick Room, before Landorus starts going nuts. Instead of going for the 95 power high horsepower, I go for 150 power Giga Impact and take the Sylveon out. This puts me in a position where, regardless of what comes in, I can now Perish Song for the win. However, my opponent still has some plays to potentially deal with that. Gothorita could fake out the Politoed. Landorus could get a flinch on Politoed with Rock Slide. Landorus could even fly and avoid the Perish Song entirely. Because yeah, Perish Song is affecting the whole field, but the target is Landorus. It's not Gothorita. So yeah, we do see the Rock Slide. My opponent's going for a flinch. Vigor Speed does hold on, which is nice, I guess. And we're gonna see if I get the Perish Song off here. Yeah, that's gonna be game 2 in my favor. We still have to play it out. Like I have to get I have to position myself with the protects correctly. I need to do as much as I can to keep the differential as high for me as possible. So we're just going to see some protects and stuff coming from me. So the Landorus officially reveals its fourth move in Earthquake, meaning I was right that it didn't have superpower. The Earthquake would have also KO'd Politoed, so I guess that was my opponent's best play to try to get back into the game. At this point, I'm just calculating what's the best way to handle the differential. I realize a 4-0 is probably not going to happen. So I decide to, instead of trying to get the 4-0, I decide to play to get the 3-0. Politoed has a protect that it can do. My Gothitelle is going down. But by Earthquaking again, the Politoed is in actually I think I protected a Politoed last turn, but the point is I probably had a better chance of getting the 3-0 with the Politoed. But also, the Earthquake knocks out its own Gothorita, which I think doesn't give me as much benefit in the differential as it would have if I knocked out the Gothorita. So if that's correct, and my opponent was looking into that too, that's very smart. But yeah, I switch out the Politoed, bring in the Dragapult, protect. And I don't even think crit Earthquake KOs. So this should secure my 3-0. And Landorus goes down, and we have a game 3. I'm also pretty happy that I forced the game 3, because with how I felt about this matchup, forcing a game 3 basically, at worst, cuts my losses to a minimum. Like, my differential in games and also the Mon differential, if I'm not successful in this upcoming game 3, is not going to be that badly affected for a matchup that I thought on paper was awful for me. Which, yeah, of course you want to win the set. Of course you do what you can to win the set. You play to your outs, you know, all that stuff. But I'm not dissatisfied with this at the moment. Alright, so going into the game 3, I assume there's going to be some sort of adjustment. Like, Gothorita didn't do much for my opponent, so I could see that getting replaced. I just don't know with what. I also don't know if maybe Gothorita comes back and leads with Landorus again. Dragapult is the Mon, on paper, that is most effective against my opponent. My opponent could very easily account for that again. If I truly believe that it's like Urshifu and Sylveon again, it's I probably want Dragapult, Politoed, Coughing, and maybe Diggersby. Maybe Gothitelle. I'm not entirely sure. But I'm not sure if my opponent will switch it up or not because Mystic has options. So I decide to go with what worked in game 2. And worst case, maybe I blind hypnosis something. Alright, so it is the same thing from game 2. I don't think there's a chance in hell it gets played the same way, though. So I'm thinking about this, and I realized that Diggersby is probably not going to get Surgeon Strikes this turn. I'm not sure what is going to happen, though. So I decided to go on the offensive. And because I want to go for Hypnosis, I go for Max Strike instead of Tricky. This allows me to get the speed control off. And if it is not a Surging Strikes into Diggersby or close combat, then I should be in a reasonable position. And we do see U-turn, and the Tanga Berry actually procs. Alright, so in real VGC, typically if Urshifu is U-turn, it probably is a choice item of some kind. But that's not something I want to assume in Draft League, especially as you prep for your specific opponent. And I figure whatever comes in is eating a strong Max Strike. Unfortunately, it is the one mon I don't want to see. That being Duraludon. So that's a nice Max Strike. Gothitel's now faster, and I do get the Hypnosis off on Duraludon. So it has to take a turn of sleep here. And the Tanga Berry actually helps Gothitelle survive the double up, which was nice. Now, I think the game kind of sped up for me here. Duraludon can't wake up this turn. So I should be putting Sylveon to sleep, or at least trying. But instead, for some reason, maybe because I thought the Gothitelle was going down, I go for Trick. That was another very bad play by me. The only thing I could say is I think I was a little panic stricken. I don't know why, but I knew the most likely play my opponent was going for was Dynamax Sylveon and Max Starfall into the Diggersby, and yet I still went for Trick. You would have to ask me playing the match while I was doing why I did it, because right now I'm not sure, and it was if I want to win a game like this, that's really bad for me. But anyway, do what I can. Try to reverse the Trick Room just in case. But yeah, my opponent makes the right play and KO's got it though. I should get the Sylveon with the Max Strike. Which I do. The Duraludon has its speed cut in half. So that's something I do need to be aware of. I go for the Politoed, I think. Where I should, at least. I think at this point I might be trying to do some damage calcs, like in my head, and thinking about what can do well against the Urshifu coming in, and or if your Dragapult can handle it. But whatever it is, I do. Oh, I remember. I was trying to figure out if Draco Meteor could KO Duraludon in Misty Terrain. I concluded that if it's not Assault Vest, it should drop. So that's a Draco Meteor into the Duraludon, and I do target the what is it called? The Urshifu with a think a Giga Impact, but Aqua Jet stops me from getting that off. Alright, so Draco Meteor should KO, except it doesn't because it looks like the Duraludon is Assault Vest. So I'm in a lot of trouble now. I've seen Surging Strikes. I've seen Aqua Jet. I've seen U-Turn. If I was thinking clearly, I would probably guess that the Urshifu is Choice Band or Choice Scarf. And I'm not sure if it wants to be locked into Aqua Jet for the rest of the game. Meaning, I should have Scalded the Urshifu slot and Draco'd the Duraludon slot. But I'm not sure what the Urshifu is, so I go for the Scald into the Duraludon, and I go for the Phantom Force. And it does show it as Thunderbolt, and that's also a critical hit. I'm not entirely sure how much that crit mattered, to be honest. I think it might be a two-shot anyway. No, but no, it's Citrus Berry. There's always a chance it could have ended up as a two-shot with the damage rolls. All right, this is also the last turn in Trick Room, and I really should have protected to stall out the Trick Room and to be faster than the Duraludon. Instead, I forget the Duraludon is -2 speed, and I just let the Politoed take a Thunderbolt and go down. Any realistic shot I had of winning at this point, I basically had to crit the Landorus and one-shot it. So I'm considering all my options at this point. Do I play for the differential? Is there a win con? Can I do something about this? What I do know is if I don't take care of the Duraludon, it will kill me. So I do go for it. Fortunately, my opponent protects the Landorus, so I'm able to take a KO just at the cost of life orb. I do see one way to win this game, but it's out of my hands now. I have to finish off the Landorus with Phantom Force. I have to hope this Urshifu is Choice Scarf specifically, and that for whatever reason I'm outrunning it. I need to survive the Surging Strikes when I get out of the Phantom Force protection turn, and then I need to crit Fly. So I am able to get the Phantom Force off into this Landorus, and it does pick up the KO, which saves differential a little bit. But unfortunately, this is a rain-boosted Surging Strikes that when I ran the calcs on this afterwards, that Urshifu was absolutely Choice Banded. So I did not play Game 3 well at all. I'm not happy with how I played, but a lot of it was because my opponent's team and the way it was built and the skill my opponent showed was also putting me in a panic mode. So that is a credit to my opponent, and I will have to do better going forward to pick up some more wins. So we are back, and unfortunately, I was not able to pull this one out. I ended up losing 2-1. It was tough. Mystic's a good player, and it wasn't the best matchup. However, losing 2-0 and 1-0 while winning my game 3-0, it does give me a softer landing than I might have had, where I was getting blown out in practice in some sets. I was able to occasionally win the best of 3, but I lost a lot more of them 2-0. So in the grand scheme of things, this isn't the worst thing that could have happened. As I've said, I did not like this matchup at all. I thought it was pretty bad, and not only that, my opponent also played well. That combination, it's the reason for this result. More so my opponent being able to see what the matchup was and game plan in such a way that the advantage in the 11 between the two of us was not lost. Mystic capitalized on the board position well, Mystic built well, and I was left panicking for a lot of the set. So this was a pretty justified result, even if I'm not thrilled about how I played. It was still a winnable set. If I end up playing ECU again in the playoffs or something like that, it's something I will have to take into consideration, and I'm obviously sure my opponent will as well. so it'll be another game of adjustments. But it's back to the drawing board with me. I have to figure out what I'm doing going forward. It's pretty important that I don't overreact to this. Like, I always have an urge in my VGC building and stuff when something goes wrong, I tend to want to take drastic steps to correct that, and then I always leave myself open to something else. I need to make sure that doesn't happen here. I only have 11 mons to play with. Teams are going to inherently have bigger advantages over some teams than others, and I need to be careful about what I do, especially since the bye week is about to happen and we are going to be allowed to make unlimited changes. Am I going to have some? I'm not sure at the moment. The team that I have now, I think if I play well, can win the Alola division. However, there are also a bunch of holes that I see in it, and Mystic did expose some of them. That doesn't mean it's going to be a massive problem going forward, but it does mean that I need to address these either in my building or in some transactions to make sure I cover up as many weaknesses as I can. And that's something I probably need to figure out what I'm doing, and soon, because the back half of my schedule as of this recording are all in the top 8 going into the break. Now, if the Machampions end up getting blown out 2-0, that will swap. But even then, it'd still be 6 out of 8. If and even then, if the playoffs began right now, 7 out of 8 of my opponents on my schedule this UGA season would make playoffs. The 8th one would be myself. So that's a pretty devastating schedule. In High Roll Draft League, I ended up playing a Season 1 semifinalist, the Season 1 champion, the guy who eventually won the league. There was another player who gave me my first loss that made playoffs. I then got Brady Smith and Joe UX9 back to back, and even my week 1 opponent, I found out actually won some draft leagues before. So that schedule was devastating for me, and I was still able to make playoffs. So like, I've seen hard schedules before. The IRL circuit as well. Like, especially as you're transitioning into a new game, the only people showing up are the good players, essentially. And you've got 7 rounds of a regional, like in a dead format, as everyone is trying to get ready for the next game. And the schedules I got there were pretty insane, and I was still able to get some championship points out of them. I have experience navigating these kinds of schedules. That doesn't mean I'm going to be successful navigating them. I have definitely bombed IRL events with schedules this hard before. But what it does mean, though, is that I know the task at hand. I'm not going to panic, and I'm going to formulate a game plan to try to beat some very good players to the best of my ability to move me forward. There's everything to play for in the second half, and hopefully I will be able to put myself in a position to win some games, make the playoffs, and we'll go from there. Now, my next matchup is against Pat Mack and the Sacramento Sandslash. these are the teams as they are right now. I can't promise that these are going to be the teams that are going to face off against each other in 2 weeks. As I mentioned, we have the bye week, and this is where our transaction period opens. One or both of us could make some changes, and it could be an entirely different matchup. I don't know. But what I will say is that Celesteela, Garchomp, and Milotic are incredibly scary Pokemon, and any team needs to figure out a way to answer them appropriately if they're going to have success against the Sacramento Sandslash. And if I'm not mistaken, as of now, the Sacramento Sandslash also have the best kill-death ratio in the league. So Patmac is coming to play every week. I am going to have to figure out the best way to deal with whatever he throws at me. Even if changes are made. So, what will the changes be, if any? I guess we'll find out, and we'll see what Pat Mac does. We'll see what I do, and we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm going to keep continuing to stream them on my Twitch, my matches. Like, if you want to see them live, I definitely want to give that option. I've been in the front office for a bunch of other like leagues and stuff, and it's probably just me, but there's always some sort of like agony in my head when I'm like, oh my god, are they winning? Are they losing? What's going on? Like, I definitely want to give the option for the people who work with me and some of my friends and for my division to see the games live if they want to. But if you like the post commentary better, where it's a more traditional draft league experience, except I've already played the game, I'm gonna keep doing that as well. I think it's fun in some ways to keep analyzing this, and I will keep it up. I have four teams on my schedule who right now are in playoff positions in the back half of my schedule. So it is going to be an exciting back half of the season, and I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks when I take on Pat Mac and their Sacramento Sandslash.